You're listening to Work It Lady, where the goal is for all ladies to be the best versions of ourselves. And if you happen to be a mom, be the best mom ever and maintain your sanity while we do it. So today's episode is going to be probably a little bit fun and a little bit funny because anytime, just anyway, we were in here cutting a fool before this episode started, okay, and just having a little bit of fun. But I mean, there is a bit of seriousness to today's topic too, but what we're going to be talking about is how our past traumas show up in friendships. So like how things that we've been through in the past, we kind of talked about last time, how it shapes our personality. And this time we're going to take it a step further and say how those past traumas make us act in a friendship. And so some of the things that can show up in a friendship is like codependency. Maybe you're that friend or have a friend that is kind of like a little needy, like they're blowing you up all the time, or maybe they're that friend who is aloof and doesn't really know how to be there for someone and kind of isn't the best kind of friend in that way. So there's a lot of different ways that our past traumas can show up and how we deal with each other as women, especially. So we're going to talk about that today. And we've got the whole panel here to discuss this. This is the Real Talk with Real Women panel. So let's just go ahead and get everybody introduced. So we have Katherine. How are you today, Katherine?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Katherine is the owner of Chronic Wellness Collective, and she is also a trauma-informed nurse. Next, we got Alejandra.
Hi. I'd be so excited to be here. It's like my favorite part of the month.
Yes, mine too. Alejandra is the owner of Beneath the Surface Branding. Thank you so much, Alejandra. And then we have Sonya, and Sonya is the owner of Recover, Restore, Grow. How are you doing, Sonya?
I am good. I have looked forward to meeting with you ladies. This is like my therapy. So I'm happy to be here and happy to share what we got to share.
Awesome. Now, we had kind of discussed a little bit before that, the first kind of piece of this that we're going to be talking about is, of course, how past traumas show up in friendship. And Sonya, you mentioned that you kind of had something that you wanted to share kind of just right off the jump on this topic.
I did. I personally realized I've been the person that was affected by trauma entering friendships and relationships. And I realized for me, I was guarded. I at times overcompensated because I was fearful that I would lose a friend. I was hesitant, even sometimes when I would have someone that was so nice to me that I was like, what do they want? Because sometimes you wonder. But yeah, that was me. I realized I was that person affected by trauma. I have lived in those shoes, and I have been that friend that maybe for some, they're like, what's up with that girl? She's hard to deal with, or I can't read her. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that too. It's hard sometimes, especially I think probably all of us here have been burned by a friend before. And sometimes you get burned over and over again by maybe the same friend or like multiple people doing the same things. I wanted to share something that I kind of have had like an aha these past couple years, and I can't remember whose book I was reading or what I was reading, or it may have even just been something online, but it struck a chord with me. And it's something that I have realized in myself and I'll never forget. And that is that sometimes our personalities and the traumas that we've been through, we keep drawing the same type of people because of the traumas that we've been through. So for example, in my case, I have coped with my past traumas by being like kind of what we talked about before, a real helper, a people pleaser, going above and beyond for people, like providing things, my time, giving up my time in large quantities, giving gifts, like you name it. I am that person that is going to be there for you. But then what I realized is that sometimes I kind of gravitated towards people who needed help, which in itself doesn't sound like anything wrong. But the issue there can be sometimes people, don't want help, like they're not in a place mentally where they are ready to get to that point of, coming out of that traumatic situation or the help, getting the help that they need. And so then you're kind of, wasting your time, and you're not going to be actually valued. So you keep getting kind of shut down in the same way. And it kind of got to a point where I was like, this is about the seventh time this has happened to me. Like, why do I keep running into this exact situation? So I had to take some accountability and say, you know what, this is actually like me. Like I am part of this. I'm not seeking out people who, are completely like meeting like my needs. I'm filling my need, but the other person is not meeting my needs. And a balanced friendship kind of has to have that all like jiving together. So that's been a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in on that. So my thing was I'm great at being the helper, but I have a hard time asking for the help. I can solve every problem you want me to help you solve, but when the shoe's on the other foot, I don't even know how to ask. And I think it comes personally from my fear of abandonment. I'm afraid of like if I help you solve your problem, then you'll still want me around. But like as soon as I become vulnerable, I feel like it's too much on you, so you're gonna run away from me. So I'm here to dance and do the jive for you, but when I need the help, it's hard for me to reach out. So understanding how to do that, and also knowing that not everybody is gonna like you. You're an acquired taste. I have a very spicy personality, so I'm an acquired taste, and it's okay. And it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. It just means that I need to find my people, and then not everyone is going to be my best friend, and that's okay, because we all have different personalities that jive better with certain personalities than others. So, and going back to what you were saying about taking responsibility, of always being the person that is helping, but not necessarily asking or being met halfway. I was told by a really good friend to execute the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 rule. And 1/3 of the time you hang out with people that are, I guess for the lack of a better term, vibrating at a lower frequency than you, people that need more assistance. So you're there to help them out. So that's that 1/3. Then the second third are people who are at your level, people that sharpen you, the iron sharpening iron type of friend, right? They're at your level. And then the last third that you fill is people that are above you. So the same way you help sharpen somebody that was not operating at a lower frequency than you, you do the same by somebody that is operating at a higher frequency than you. So you are striving to be at that level, and they're providing their 1/3 because you're lower than they are. So it's kind of like the circle that keeps on giving. And when you fill your friendships with those 3/3, you're in a pretty well balanced relationship. So you never feel like you're giving more than you're receiving, and you're feeling balanced, if that makes any sense. So I've taken that. I've taken that, and it's really helped out. I no longer feel like used in my friendships. And for the first time, I'm 32. I'm 32 years old, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I finally found real friends. So.
Oh, that is awesome. Hey, we love you. I love that. I love everything you said, and I agree 100%. All right, Katherine.
I'm just soaking up all this wisdom from you guys. But I was thinking about that. I think it was you, Alejandra, who said like sometimes there are people and it's like they're just not my people. And that's been a big thing for me to learn as somebody who wants to be everybody's people, but I'm not. And that was really humbling. But I think what it comes from is like that core fear of abandonment or rejection. And there's like this huge continuum, right? Like Sonya said, we can be shut down, guarded, and suspicious because if I don't let you in, then you can't reject me. And then we can also be on this other end where we're like, I give everything in hopes that you won't leave me, but sometimes you still do, and I end up feeling rejected anyway. So I feel like there's just this sweet spot where I do think it happens more in our 30s where we show up and we're like, this is me, and I'm some people's person and not others. and I'm going to be okay with whatever that is. And I feel like I'm finally getting into that in my life, and it feels so much better. And I'm realizing so many things that I thought were my personality, like we associate being generous and self-sacrificing and giving, like I want to associate myself with those qualities, but I was doing so in an unbalanced way. And what I thought was my personality was probably just a whole bunch of like coping mechanisms and trauma responses. And it's not that I want to distill it all to just that negative, but that was a big part of it. Like I was way off the charts in one direction. And so I feel like I'm finding this nice middle ground now where I'm like, sometimes I have things to give. Sometimes I can be self-sacrificing and sometimes I can't, and both are okay. And my real friends are going to stick around for either version of me, and I like there's some calmness that's coming in with that.
Wow, that's incredible. And you know what? I think that is what I am still working through, is realizing you're not going to be everybody's person. Like you're just not going to. And I have to just completely like stop trying to do that. Like jive with people who are, like you said, Alejandra, kind of feeling you, like whatever that means. And you can't be everything to everyone. But I think, again, one of my trauma responses, like you mentioned, is I kind of am like that person who's always rooting for the underdog. And so I always want to be that person who like, hey, this person that does not have a friend, I want to like make sure I take an interest in them and I want to seek them out and I want to be there for them. But you kind of got to wait and see if that other person comes back, that other percent. You extend yourself and then you got to wait to see what they do if they come back. And I think in a relationship, this can show up, and you guys let me know what you think. This can show up something as simple as like the text, no text back thing. Like, right? Like, hey, you be texting them and then they don't ever be texting you back. Like, take the clue. Like, they're not really feeling you, right? Like,
yes and no, it depends. Some people just aren't. I come from a family that like they're awful. Like if I were to base my love on how many times they text me or text back, I'd be feeling really bad about myself. So it just depends on the person and the way they communicate. Maybe they're just a one-on-one, face-to-face type of individual, or they lose track, or maybe they're the type of person that wanted to text back, but they have ADD or ADHD or however you call it. That might be really hard for them to go back to that text because they're already like 10 days later, right?
Right.
So I feel like in a society where like we have instant gratification, where everything has to be instant, I feel like sometimes we have to remember the days where we had change in our pockets and we used to call collect. Like we have to take the time and respect that time and not take it personal when people don't call back, because it might be nothing and you are like doing the trauma dance in your mind and going down the rabbit hole like, oh my God, what did I do? And racking your brain, how did I offend this person? What do I need to say I'm sorry? And they're fine. Like they just literally couldn't pick up the phone, or I don't know, maybe their kid dumped it in the toilet. Who knows?
Right.
So, and here you are like making such a big deal of something that's not a big deal at all.
This is true.
I want to agree with that, if that's okay, because I think that's where the beauty comes when we learn to just like show up as our authentic selves. If I reach out with a text, it's not with the expectation of a text in return. It's that I wanted to text whatever the outcome was going to be. And I'm not setting myself up for disappointment anymore. Because like you said, Alejandra, they may not be in a position to return that text. It doesn't mean they don't love me, but I don't have to take it personally because I just showed up with what I had to give that day and I was open to whatever they might or might not have. And it's like so much more peace in my head now.
This is true. This is true.
I also agree with everything that you guys all said, Alejandra and Catherine, because, there's times I get text message and I'm in the middle of something. I cannot reply. I may reply 2 hours later, a day later, sometimes a week later. But I think if you have those friends that know your character and they know, oh, she gonna text me back, it may be a week later, maybe 5 hours later, then you're all good. So for me, I kind of base it on the track record. How do I feel in that person's company? Am I important to them when I speak? That's what I try to base on that. Now, there are instances I will say where people do straight up just try to ignore you. And I think if you do feel that way, that's when you have to have a conversation and say, hey girl, I've been texting you, everything okay? Just want to catch up with you. Haven't heard from you. Just kind of put it out there and see what comes back at you. Because like you said, Alejandra, they could have had the phone dropped in the toilet or, could not have been available. But if you're feeling a little distant or slighted and you say, okay, I've been messaging this person, reaching out, nothing back, and I see them in person and their behavior's off with me, I see them on Zoom at a Zoom, a meetup or something, and there's something off, then I think in that instance, it is appropriate to just kind of have a conversation.
I think so too. And I feel like there's points in what everybody is saying. And I think, well, first of all, I'm definitely that person, and all of you guys can probably attest to this. I'm that person who will be like a week later getting back to you, like there's a level of inconsistency there with me because yeah, sure, I'm busy and all that. But I think you kind of settle into this thing with your friends where what their norm is. So like, you'll know I'm that friend who one time I might fire back immediately. The other time you might not hear from me for a week later. But like what Sonya is saying, there is some sort of a consistentness that has to happen, with the friendship. Like you do have to value the fact that someone is trying to communicate with you, just like face to face. I think, you wouldn't like just completely ignore someone who was, like right in your face or whatever. But I think I was also reading somewhere online that sometimes when we ignore, like if we're blatantly ignoring, like what Sonya says, so if we're ignoring a friend or what's that other word they use? Ghosting, that one. Then that is kind of actually, so they say, and maybe Catherine can weigh in on this, that can actually be classified as aggressive behavior, like not like literally not responding to someone because you feel, like I just, and sometimes you can't, but sometimes it's just a conscious, like, you're not important. I'm just not gonna, So what do you guys think? It's a tricky one, right?
It's okay if I jump in on that?
Yeah.
Only because I had this conversation with someone today. But I think a lot of times, especially if we're on like the codependent, overly giving side of the continuum, we enter into these unspoken contracts with people, right? Like where we assume if I'm going to give this much, then of course you'll give it in return, right? And I have been in so many situations where I was like told, I never agreed to this, Catherine. And I was crushed and humiliated and confused, and I realized it's really hard for some of us to voice our expectations. Like if I have a friend, it's really important to me that if I text you that you respond, or let me know when you will respond so that I'm not left hanging. Asking for what we need feels so uncomfortable. But I think if it's a true friendship, we're willing to go through that discomfort of saying like, hey, no judgment. Maybe your phone dropped in the toilet. And also, I felt really like abandoned and undervalued and like you didn't care about me. And a good friend's going to be like, I'm so sorry. I never meant, let's work this out. Somebody that is passive aggressively just ignoring us and hoping we'll go away. Like when we try to have those real conversations, it will become apparent what their intentions are. And it may be hard to swallow, but that's kind of like a not my people moment,
Amen.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to be aware of your, for the lack of a better term, spidey sense. I guess that's like intuition, right? You definitely, when you're going down the rabbit hole of your own insecurities versus when people are being mean. And if that's the case, like Catherine was saying, that's just not your person. And instead of forcing a shoe that doesn't fit, because you're only hurting yourself, you're gonna give yourself some bunions, right? Some emotional bunions by trying to force a shoe that doesn't fit. Just let it go, bless and release. Like, so you instead of investing so much time on something that's not going to work, invest in someone that will. Right?
That is exactly the point. That is exactly the point. Now, I have a real life, let's say, case study here that I want to work through you guys with, because I want all the opinions, and this is going to be great for everyone listening on podcasts or watching on YouTube. So I'm going to give you a real life example. So I have a friend, she lives elsewhere, where I'm from. We kind of do that thing where, we're not the friends that we talk all the time, which is okay. But once we do talk, we're picking right back up where we left off, like that whole thing, which is cool. But She came into town. She let me know she was going to come. We made kind of a little like blues plan, like, hey, when you get here, you hit me up and we'll make the plan. This is what I'm, comfortable doing because of COVID safe and like whatever. So she comes into town and she's like, yeah, I'm here. I'm like, okay, girl. So what are we doing? Da, 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 da. No response. Day number 2. I'm like, I still haven't heard anything back. I let another day go by. I'm like, well, I know she's not going to be here that long. And I really want to get in with her. Shoot another text. No response. A couple more days go by and then it's, oh, hey, yeah, so I'm leaving like in a couple hours and yeah, this is what happened, but nothing about like us getting together, just kind of completely ignoring that, kind of. And then the last straw, I was like, okay, well, I understand we didn't get to meet up, but could you just tell me one thing? Did you enjoy that one place that you went? Because I've been trying to go there and I'd love to know how you enjoyed it, if it's worth me going there with my family. No response. Now, here the story continues. She gets back home. More months go by now. Then all of a sudden she's coming back. Oh, hey, I'm so sorry I didn't get back with you the last time. And I'm coming back now. And there's this guy. Does your husband know him? Because I really like to actually, I'm looking at Sonya's face right now. If he does know him, I'd like to know more about him. And yeah, we'll definitely get together this time. I mean, come on. What do you guys? I love to have some objective.
Sonya says it all with her face. But what does your spidey sense say?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll share mine at the end. How about that? I want to see what everyone has to say, and then I'm going to tell you what I did.
Go ahead, Sonya. You busted at seams.
Okay. So I can relate to Clary's situation. To me, if someone really wants to see you, they are going to make a definite plan and say, hey, can we get together this day, this time? Does that work for you? I don't want to be a convenient idea for you when you feel like you want to pop into town and you might want to do something with me. Like if you really want to see me, make a definite plan. And I feel like at this point, with your friend trying to come back in town, I get that. I would probably have a conversation with her and say, hey, I know last time you were here, it seemed like we couldn't really connect, but I have to be honest with you. If I, kind of put this idea in my head that we're going to connect, I kind of need to know where you're coming from. We're going to get together because the last time I never heard from you and I'm feeling some kind of way about that. So I don't want to rearrange my life and my hopes and of seeing you just in case it falls through. So that is my 2 cents on it. For me, honestly, I'm not you, Clary, but I don't think I would be able to tolerate that because to me, people do what they want to do. And you come all this way, I live here, I'm just being honest. That's how I feel. I feel like you are a valuable friend. All of these women here are valuable friends. And when you really value your friendship, you communicate, you use your words, you say something.
Very good points. Very good points. Who's next?
I'm sitting over here with 2 hats on, and this is how my life goes. And it's very disconcerting. But there's my Catherine, like just a girl hat that's like, final chance blown, writing an angry email, and I'm done. Like that's just my overreactive. But then there is my trauma-informed nurse coach side that says, if I think about it, I've been both players in this scenario. And it was always a breakdown in communication and an opportunity for us to both improve in our friendship if we wanted it to continue in our communication. I've been the one that I felt people showed me by their actions that I was not a priority. Because I, like Sonya said, believe that if somebody wants to see me, come heck or high water, they will find a way to see me because that's the kind of person I am. So I know that even in our worst days, we can find it within ourselves to see people. I also know I've been the girl that landed in town and didn't think through how my friends might be feeling and skipped over some and saw others and reached out to some and didn't follow through and left bad tastes in people's mouth. And I feel horrible about it, and I was like, lesson learned. Next time, yeah, I have to practice what I preach. And if these people are a priority, I need to start that conversation a lot sooner. And again, about expectations. But the fact is, it really hurts when somebody, no matter what their words are, their actions are showing that you were not on the front of their mind. They were not willing to rearrange things to see you on that trip. And so it does make you pause and go like, how vulnerable am I willing to be moving forward and open myself up to this pain again? Is that possible or not?
Yeah. My thing is, hey, I think I'd rather someone blow into town and like not say anything than be like, hey, we getting together and then don't say anything. Because I've definitely gone in places and like not, been able, you can't get to everybody. You just can't get to everybody. You know what I'm saying? But then I just don't say anything at all to those people I know that, or I might say, hey, I'm gonna be in town, but unfortunately I can't get to you at this time. I'm gonna put you on for next time, girl. Yeah.
That's what you would hope the person would learn, right?
Yeah. And I think if we start off with respect with each other and just communicate, that is such a simple thing that we all have the power and the ability to do. Stop and communicate, be honest, and say, hey, I can't make it, or I can, and, use your words, communicate.
Yeah. To me, two principles come to mind in this situation. The first one is expectation postponed makes the heart sick. And don't provide expectations, especially there's some friends that are like your go-to hangout buddy, and it's like if and when the stars align, you guys get together in a really rare occasion and you have the best time, but they're not the most dependable. Like you wouldn't call them up and say, hey, can you take me to my 4 a.m. flight? You just know that friend you only call to have fun, right? And then you call your responsible friend to take you to the flight. So don't expect too much, and just view the person for what it is that they're showing you that they are, right? And then the second principle that I was thinking is, don't be quick to take offense, because you're not the main character in anybody's story but your own. So how dare she come all the way to my town and she did not tell me that? Like, why are you're just looking with a magnifying glass to take offense. So you're not the main character in anybody's story but your own.
I need to write this down.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. That is a good point. Well, I'll share what I did. So when she did text me this time, because remember, I've kind of painted a whole story here, so this time when she did text me to say like, oh yeah, sorry about that. And now I have all these questions that pertain to me that I need you to help me with. Yet she has not volunteered to even spend any time with me or acknowledge any of that stuff before. You know what I did? I didn't text back. And I'm not going to, because here's the thing. That is what I'm getting. And so I was not a priority then. Now, if she comes to me and says, you know what, girl, I noticed you didn't text me back this last time, and I know it's because I did you wrong when I was out there. Like, I didn't have time and I'm sorry, I was rushing, or, here's what happened. Or sometimes we don't even have to say, all what happened, but people have to I feel valued in a friendship. And again, this isn't someone that I'm buddy with, but what I'm not interested in is someone who is going to just be a friend of convenience. Like, hey, when I need you, I'm going to be all in. I'm texting you. I mean, she sent me like pages and pages of stuff, but my little one sentence text about, hey, like, you think we're getting together, that was just, kind of by the wayside. And so what I think is happening in society right now is, and we all have to kind of be careful because we could be affected by this stuff. It's almost like a meist movement. Like it's our whole lives. Yes, that is true. Like you mentioned, Alejandra, we are the center of our own universe. But I think we have to remember, like, to be human, to be kind and compassionate, and treat people the way we want to be treated. And we are our own stars, and we can't get to everybody.
I'm going to challenge you with what you just said, because you said treat others the way you want to be treated, right?
Right.
But are you being a petty Betty for ghosting her because she ghosted you? Are you treating her the way that you want to be treated?
Yes, in that instance, that's exactly what I would expect back. I would. And for me, like if someone did that to me, I'd be like, I'm out of line. Like I know why this is happening. And this has been a continual trick with this person. I'm not the type of person who is gonna immediately be like, oh, how dare you, me, this important person. Like this has been years. It's taken years for me to do that. And for me, it's taking my power back because I'm that person who people will do that to me and I'll never call them out on it. I'll just keep acting like nothing's going on. And so this is me, you know.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
These are two rhetorical questions, and they're questions that I ask myself when I know I'm like majorly triggered and hurt. And the first one I ask myself as a recovering codependent is, this person has shown me who they are or how they want to show up for me, which is ghosting me. So accepting that as the reality, what do I have to give to them, or what relationship do I want to have with them moving forward? And in that case, the answer may be that I choose to stop texting because I don't want to have a relationship. And that may not be petty. You know, that may just be, this doesn't work. But also a good question to ask myself is, if I'm finding that I'm not open to actually having that conversation, is why do I not feel safe to directly express my hurt to the person? Because to me, that's always like the one last ditch effort, is they've ghosted me. I'm not okay with it. They're showing me who they are. That's not cool. I'm ready to let them go. But if I haven't told them yet how it made me feel, I have to say, hey, when you ghost me, it really hurts me. What do you have to say to that? And if they still ghost me, then the hatchet comes down and I'm like done.
Exactly.
But maybe they're just a shallow person and they don't understand that they're hurting me.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I've actually had that conversation with this person in years past. This is like the second or third time where I've been like, hey, you know, when you do that, like that kind of. And so now I'm just like, all right, like this might be the end of this friendship. And I'm okay with it, because to me, this isn't a true friendship. Because you don't treat people that way, you know, it's just not acceptable.
I love what you said, that you're taking your power back, and that's important because there are boundaries. And if you've given her chance after chance, and she's just showing you that this friendship is not important, then it's okay to let it go. You know, just be happy for what it was and move on.
Yeah. Not my people.
Exactly. That was kind of my whole point of it, because I love when you said, you know, not my person, you know, and I'm, you know, I do know some people have, you know, certain friends for certain things, but I'm kind of I need people to have a couple core things that are, you know, kind of fibers of their being. And if they're not, to me, I'm just kind of wasting both of our times. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think this is probably going to be the end of this one for now. I mean, I'm not angry. I'm not mad. I'm really not even hurt. I'm just changing my behavior, because I'm like, this is a cycle of what I keep doing and this keeps happening. So someone's got to change like what they're doing. So I'm changing by not responding this time. So
you giving her what she gives you.
You're not investing. Sorry, I interrupted.
No.
That is what you said, not investing.
Yeah, not investing too much. So guys, in this episode, we've kind of talked about a lot, and I really appreciate everybody weighing in on this personal experience, because it's nice to have like a case study you can actually work through. And does anybody have anything along this that they want to share before we kind of close it out? Go ahead.
So sometimes when we're in a friendship, we talk a lot about like being wronged, right? But what if we're righted? What if the person had the best intentions to help you out, and maybe the way they packaged their advice was a little strong, right? And it didn't sit very well with us. Are we going to huff and puff and get offended? Or are we going to take the time to sit with that information? Are we going to find the good in the person, not focus on how it was delivered, but more so the person themselves, like what it took for them, the courage they needed to have to speak out and help you, because that's what it was, regardless of, sometimes when you're given counsel, it stings, right? It's not the best, but a good friend will call you out. So do we take that moment to embrace the information and apply it regardless of how much it stung? Or are we going to take this opportunity to end a friendship that when the person maybe just had your best interest in mind?
I think that's a good point. I think that one is something that I would probably think about more so with a more serious friendship, not necessarily the case study that I gave earlier, because it was never that deep of a friendship. But with a deep friendship, I 100% agree that absolutely, like, I feel like sometimes in friendships, people just want friends that agree with them. Like, oh yeah, girl, like no matter what they're doing, girl, I'm about to go over here and jump off a bridge. Yeah, girl, woo. Like they're not trying to say anything like to recall you to your senses. And a good friend will say like, hey girl, you may want to chill here, or maybe this, or like, so I think that's something that is a big value in a friendship.
I have one thing just to add on the way out. When it comes to friendships, I think being patient with someone until they show you who they are. And when they show you they are and where they're at, then you have to figure out if it's something that you can commit to or invest in, as Katherine said. And if it's not something you can invest in at that time, there's hope that in the future you guys can cultivate it. I have been in friendships where people have not been able to be the friend that I needed. And I recognize it was because they were working through trauma. And so instead of, completely writing them off, I stepped back because I couldn't invest in allowing myself to deal with that trauma while they were working through it. It's not to say I would be mean to them, but I knew that at that time they were not, like we're saying, our people. So I think being patient with each other, recognizing when someone is in a place where they cannot give, and compassionately doing the compassionate thing for ourselves and for them, stepping back and allowing them time to heal for when they're ready.
I think that's a beautiful point. Beautiful point.
Yeah, I just want to echo that because I think timing is so important in life and relationships and friendships and healing. And I personally have held on to or forced so many relationships out of fear of what it would mean about me if the relationship ended. Was I not a good friend? Did I not try hard enough? What will people think? That whole rabbit hole. But if we truly trust that like the right things will be available to us when we need them, they may not last forever. There are certain friends that come and go in seasons and times when we need them. And then we do have to sometimes just let them free and see if they stick around. And maybe they're meant to move on to other things, and so are we, but we'll never know that unless we can just compassionately like stop clinging on for dear life and just see what happens next. And I'm trying to like make a lot more space for that in my own life right now, and just trust that the people that I need will be there for me when I need them. And if they can't be there for me, maybe they're not supposed to. So, it says nothing about who I am as a person.
That is so true. That is so true. All right, guys. I think that this was an excellent discussion around friendship, and kind of gave us a lot of insight onto how, past traumas, things that we've been through, how they show up in friendships and our friendship behavior, things that we can improve on, things that we can learn from. So I hope everybody found this discussion to be interesting. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Work It Lady. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next episode.